Welcome to Mastering the Art of Success. I'm your host, Debbi DiMaggio. We are here today with Kevin Kennon. He is coming to us from New York City. Welcome, Kevin.
Hi, Debbie. It's nice to meet you.
I know, nice to meet you. I think we've been working on this scheduling for about a year.
Well, even more so. Sometimes it's worth the wait.
Exactly, exactly. I'm just so fascinated by architecture and how it's just genius. I just don't understand it, but maybe you can break it down to us today. I was watching on YouTube this morning about they were building they built a residential home on the cliff of Big Sur, and just I don't think I could sleep in that house. I know it's very secure, but it's
Right.
literally vertical, so it's incredible. You
Right.
guys are geniuses. So
Yeah.
before we get started, I'm going to read your bio and we're going to scroll through some of your incredible architectural designs that
Great.
you've created over the years.
Perfect.
So, Kevin Kennon. Kevin Kennon is an internationally renowned architect with over 40 years of experience specializing in environmentally sustainable and in innovative design. As the founder and CEO of Beyond Zero DDC Inc., Kevin leads the development of zero carbon emission luxury eco resorts in remote wilderness locations worldwide, merging design excellence with ecological responsibility. His extensive portfolio includes projects like the 1.5 million square foot Barclays North American headquarters, the Rodin Museum in Seoul, and the multiple award winning Bloomingdale stores. Additionally, he led United Architects, a finalist in the prestigious World Trade Center design competition, further solidifying his impact on architectural innovation. Kevin's expertise spans adaptive reuse, urban planning, and large scale developments, with projects featured in the permanent collection of MoMA, New York. He has earned over 40 international design awards, is a sought after thought leader contributing to discussions on urban development, climate change, and sustainable architecture. His work extends beyond architecture as an expert witness and lecturer at leading institutions like Yale and Columbia. He brings a multidisciplinary approach to his craft. Welcome.
Ah. You're
A
going with
lot,
the full CV. Um, I
right?
appreciate your slogging through that. Um, but
Yeah,
uh,
can you share with us a few what were the images that scrolled through? If you can remember which ones came through, where they were, and yeah, this. Oh, great, thanks, Zach.
yeah.
Like, where is that? That is incredible.
That is actually our competition. One of the renderings from our competition and entry for the World Trade Center
Oh,
design competition, and that was we were I was a much younger human being then, and we were kind of this very cool hip. Um, if you saw what our initial image was of our team, it looked like the United Colors of Benetton. It was we we submitted this kind of worldwide um, bunch of kids at the time, and we got in, we got selected. I kind of put together a group of a lot of my friends. And I thought, well, if we could actually get this thing, it would be a gas to do, and it was. It was exactly that. So that's our competition entry, and obviously we didn't win, but at least we were selected for the permanent collection of the Museum of Modern
oh,
Art.
oh, so this is the one in the Museum of Modern Art in New York.
Right.
Nice.
And that's a picture of the Rodin Museum. That was a project I did while I was a partner at KPF, Cohn Pedersen Fox, and it was a very immersive thing. I had to go to Paris and live there for a month as part of my preparation, just to design the building. The clients was Samsung. It was at the foot of their headquarters building, and they had purchased two castings from the most famous Rodin sculptors.
Wow.
the Gates of Hell and the Burgers of Calais. And so one of the very rare opportunities you get in life is to actually design a building completely around two pieces of sculpture. So,
Wow.
yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And that sits at the middle of downtown Seoul and right next to a 8-lane major thoroughfare. But the whole goal of it was that once you kind of entered inside the space, we used the same limestone in the floor that they used in the Louvre. And so it felt like you left the sort of busy metropolis of what is Seoul, Korea, and entered into a foggy day in Paris.
Wow. That's incredible. I just can't believe it's just off of an 8 lane highway. That's crazy.
Oh, it's the little details like that that I think you don't pick up just by looking at the photographs, and even just that whole experience of photographing that building was an incredibly wild event because it was in the middle of a monsoon.
Oh,
um, and we were there. We spent, I think, 10 days there waiting for the sun to burst, and
wow.
it did for like about 5 hours. So we took all the interior shots of that, and the rest of the time we were outside photographing it in the rain. And it turned out great. It actually, the something about it just captured the building perfectly. So.
It must feel pretty incredible after you create these magnificent structures. I can't. Can you describe the feeling when you create something like this?
Well, first of all, it was a lot of the projects I work on. I don't know if it's just my stupidity or stubbornness or a combination of both. But I try to come up with these ideas and then see it through. And with a lot of people saying, "Oh, that'll never get built. It was not going to happen." And I guess that's just a natural contrarian. And so when I hear that, I just double down.
I love it. I'm like that too. I love it. Don't tell me I can't. I can.
Right. Yeah, I knew
All
we
right.
had a lot in common. I knew that already. It just kind of back and forth. So,
Exactly. Okay, we had to take an intermission to start it this way, but now we're gonna go back. Let's start with the beginning. Where did you grow up? Where did you attend a university? And how did you get into architecture? What led you that way?
well, I grew up in Southern California. So just it's interesting that you led off by this discussion of this house that you saw in Big Sur. I mean, where I grew up was very much like that. It was
Oh,
just
wow.
south of Los Angeles, a place called Palos Verdes. And the place that I lived in Palos Verdes was called Portuguese Bend, which is almost a land that's sort of lost in time. Half of the area is sliding into the ocean, and the other half was relatively stable until recently, and now it's sliding too. But they put a moratorium on development there, so all the buildings there were at least 30, 40, 50 years old, which in Southern California is ancient. It's like, um, so it was a pretty amazing place to grow up. And I think the thing that I loved best about it was how you were close to a city, but you were also kind of in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's since become a little more developed, but at least when we were there, it was fairly empty.
Absolutely. And then, so what led you into architecture? Was it one of your first things you did, or was it something that happened later in life?
I resisted it. My father was an architect, and
Of
I was determined not to do it. Of course,
That's my
he was a bad example because he really loved doing it, and he was a kind of environmentalist to begin with. And so, you're when you're younger, you sort of resist all this stuff, and then one day you wake up and you go, "Oh, wait a minute, it's not such a bad thing to do." So I guess that was kind of it. But then I think the thing that really sealed the deal is I went to school here in the East Coast, and I think that led to the sort of gradual transformation into me ultimately coming to New York and living here and practicing for the better part of my life. Um, so yeah, I don't know. It was the school that I went to was a small liberal arts college, but they had an affiliation with a crazy program in New York City where you went and lived in New York City. This was in the early '80s, and New York City was a very very different place,
Right.
uh, much more dangerous. But we loved it, and I think just the excitement of being in the city and studying architecture from completely mad individuals was great. So
It sounds
it,
wonderful. Well,
irresistible. Yeah,
you must
so
you must have had some great mentors. So where was your first job, and what did you learn or take away from that first job that might have kept you going or just inspired you even more?
well, I took a gap year before I started graduate school, and I said, "Well, I'm just going to go live in New York and see if I really like it." Um, and I was fortunate enough to get a job with I Pay, and so that was great. That was a real um, apprenticeship in the almost traditional sense of the word. You learned a lot just by being around people who were very, very dedicated to the art of architecture. Um, and even though I was mainly doing what we then called working drawings or construction drawings, um, but it was a discipline, and it was a good one. It was a great.
And how long did it take before you did? How many years, or what was the part in your career where you were able to do a project on your own, and which project was that?
Actually, believe it or not, the project. Well, you showed two examples of my first two projects. The very first project I did was the Trump World Tower uh, for President Trump. He wasn't president then, but he was, developer, um, and that was the first project I did as a partner at Cohn Pedersen Potts, a design partner. And I was the youngest design partner. I was a pretty young guy.
What,
And it was an interesting experience.
so is that Trump Tower on Fifth Avenue?
No, this is the one next to the UN. It's that building right there. Yeah, and to get that building into that shape and that size. That was a real engineering feat. That was really one of the first what we would call now like tall, skinny buildings that you see everywhere in New York City. Um, and it was both an architectural feat and an engineering feat to do that. So um, it went through a lot of iterations to get it to that simple
Wow,
form.
it
Yeah.
is. How many stories is that building?
Well, Mr. Trump claimed it to be 90 stories. I think it was a little short of that, but
Okay.
yeah,
Won't go
right.
there.
Um,
So my daughter she lives in New York, and she was involved in staging, and you'll remember the building, or you know the building, I just can't remember, but it was, I would say, it was a very tall building, kind of more off Park Avenue, I'd say, but it's more up in the middle, but really, really tall building, residential building. And I believe they were having some issues with elevators
oh,
and things.
that's 425 Park Avenue. I know it well. I speak
That you
about it.
do.
you know, often it was the problem sometimes is with architects is that you start to believe you can do anything, and then you stop listening to people who know better. Um,
Oh,
and that's a real case, I think. I don't want to get myself in trouble because, I part of my um, job, one of the jobs I do currently is I'm an expert witness
right,
in various cases. This is not something I'm involved in, nor do I really particularly want to be involved in,
right.
because it's a real mess. Um, but there are engineering principles at work there, and I think it sounds as if they made certain aesthetic choices that compromise some basic um, engineering good practice, best practice, and
Right.
so that's when you really run into trouble.
So what? So we don't have to speak about that building, but there's one in San Francisco.
Yeah,
Maybe we can talk about that one. So there's the one in San Francisco, and I won't name the name, but it's sinking, and you can clearly see it when we drive off the freeway. And do you think that happened, one, because they weren't following something got signed off on that wasn't supposed to, and or both? Do you think it was because they put in Salesforce and they put in the subway station and all of that that dug down and
yeah,
compromised? What are the reasons, do you think, because of
yeah.
what's happening?
You're talking about Salesforce Tower, right? I mean,
Yeah, right next door there's a building. There's
yeah,
a residential
right,
building.
right. Um, yeah, so you see this occasionally, where despite I think the best laid plan, sometimes things happen, and it still is not entirely sure exactly what triggered that. I mean, it was clearly something. The building didn't quite settle the way it was supposed to, um, and that that kind of stuff happens. I it, to the lesson from all of this is, and it's a lesson particularly for architects because we're usually, especially design architects like I am, we're usually the point of the spear, for any kind of major building project. And so we have a real responsibility, I think, to listen to the people that we're working with, and come at it with a sort of sense of respect, especially our engineers.
Right.
So that goes also. Sometimes you have to be able to tell the client, hey, this is something
It's
that
not
maybe we shouldn't do, even though that it does represent your wildest desire. Um,
right.
but that's part of the, comes with the territory.
And in within your firm, do you have engineers within your firm, or do you use outside engineers?
No, I actually, I practice architecture now. As what's called a distributed practice. I learned a valuable lesson during the pandemic and COVID. Is that I was amazed at how much work we were able to do remotely. I only work with people that I've worked with, face to face. I don't like to hire people I haven't worked with because,
Right.
you need to be able to understand that they're going to be reliable. They're going to be there when you need them, and you can leave them to their own devices. Uh, but yeah, no, I it's freed up my time. It's freed up my ability to work and to meet clients and to I kind of spend my time between. We have three different places uh, on the East Coast, and I'm actually in DC today, and so but headquartered in New York. Um, so and now with AI, it's even becoming easier.
Right.
It's amazing how rapidly our profession is changing.
I bet. Oh my gosh. So you've built a career that blends art, science, and sustainability. What was your path from traditional architecture into more environmentally conscious and innovative design?
Well, again, I think I get this also from my father. He was, that guy. He was very involved in the '70s in designing buildings that were highly sustainable. Um, and so I guess that came with that. It's always been. It's weird because I look back at my work and I've said, oh, I've always had this kind of interest in
Nice.
doing cool things with, I would say, technology and engineering. So that just comes with the territory. Um, so
You
I don't
guys,
know.
you were ahead of the game. My gosh, your dad was doing it back then, and you
Yeah.
kind of, it sounded like you just, it was part of what you did from the beginning, not the new wave.
No, no, it wasn't. I don't think I ever felt like I consciously made a decision like, oh, now I'm going to be, more attuned to sustainability. I just always thought that that was just part of your toolkit as an architect. It's like if you're going to do anything and build it, you should do it responsibly,
Right.
and not necessarily make it just about that, but just make it part of the stuff that you integrate and just make what you do better.
I love it. No, that's great. Not everyone thinks that way, as you know. So
Yeah,
you've designed everything from luxury eco resorts, I want to travel, so you're going to have to share where, to
yeah.
major corporate headquarters like Barclays. How do you approach such vastly different types of projects?
Uh, I guess it's just I have a wide range of interest. you know,
Yeah.
I, 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 I listen. I approach architecture from a completely humanistic perspective. I put myself into the shoes of the people who are going to live there and work there and live, play there, and even just walk by there. So at every scale, from right there at the street to the interiors spaces to how does it affect the skyline, those are all elements of that goes into my thinking. And when I travel, it's exactly what I do. It's the same thing, So I, to me, I approach designing a bathroom the same way that I approach designing a skyscraper. They each have their own quirks and I guess aspects of it that need attention, and attention both to what the idea is, but also what the detail is. And sometimes bathrooms are a hell of a lot of so, because I find the people I design a bathroom for are far more uncompromising about what they
Right.
want, than almost any other room in a house or house itself or apartment complex or museum or whatever. I mean, it's pretty exacting stuff. So
Yeah, and they definitely, people want it the way they want it. At least it's not going to compromise the structure and the integrity of the building.
right,
So we're going to go to commercial break. We'll be right back with Kevin
right.
Kennon. He's in DC today, but he's works out of New York City. Thank you. We'll be right back.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like it was almost instant, like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. Yeah, it feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical. Mike Zorich, a three-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a six-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorich, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorich has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk.
Welcome back to Mastering the Art of Success. I'm Debbi DiMaggio, and we are here today with Kevin Kennon. We were just talking offline. I would think that most architects would either do skyscrapers and bigger projects, and then if someone's an architect and they focus on residential, but you were just telling me you do both. So tell me about what your split is on that, and where have you done some residential projects?
Well, I think, this goes back again to where I grew up. And one of my early fascinations with architecture were looking at houses that were, perched precariously on the edge of cliffs. And I always just thought that was both crazy and cool at the same time. How would you possibly do that? Why would you live that way? But it has been a constant preoccupation of mine throughout my career, to the point now where I'm actually the main job that I have right now is as an architect and developer for a company called Zero DDC, and we specialize in wilderness hotels and resorts. I'm the founder and CEO of Beyond Zero, and it's great. I mean, and as part of that, we're also now doing a lot more just kind of one-off residential work for it's got to be for the right clients and
So you
who
mentioned one in
advance.
Southern California right now. Where's that project?
That is near Malibu, and but kind of up, not on the coast, but up a little bit.
Right.
And yeah, the thing we specialize in for Beyond Zero is building what we call light footprint buildings. Where everything is elevated. It's we really try to leave the ground as
Okay.
untouched as possible. And there's a lot of reasons why you need to do that. The farther afield you go, the more off-grid that it is, the more you encounter, kind of rugged terrain. You have to be able to, one of the most costly and frankly, dangerous things that we do is try to build buildings into the side of cliffs by
Wow.
excavating, putting in foundations, and then building a traditional building on top of it. The second there's any kind of movement, as there inevitably is, especially in California, any kind of movement, you're talking about the whole building kind of racking and cracking. But if you do what I'm talking about, these sort of light footprint structures, they're not as impacted, and they're safe, and they're easier to build.
So when you're putting piers into the ground,
Yeah,
that's safe.
like that. It's basically like if you were to look at it, they look like they're all on kind of piers.
Right.
And we use a special pier called a helical pile, and they're very easy to put down. And what's interesting is you can put them on any kind of terrain, almost pretty much, and you can create a flat level platform. This is what you need to be able to build anything
That's
without
incredible.
just or very little. disturbance
It,
of that.
so, and then you said it's also it's better for not to disturb the ground, so it's another way to kind of environmentally be conscious
Yeah.
of your building.
Yeah, I mean, it's a practical solution to a problem, but it also happens to be one where you're what I describe it as you're designing with the land, not against it.
Right.
Most of the things that we do traditionally has been to uh, design against nature, and as you know, as we all know, who live in precarious areas, and what in any place almost in the world at this point is has some degree of challenges, and we're going to. I think it's here to stay. I mean, we're going to have to continue to adapt to a changing planet until we finally figure out, how to solve some of the what seem to be intractable problems
Right.
of our own.
I didn't know that, so it's so interesting to me, and I'm sure a lot of people don't know that. I wouldn't. Well, I haven't built. I mean, I built a house in a development, but not without supervision. But it's interesting. So, are more. Is it more expensive to do it without going into the ground, or is it less more economic? Why aren't more people doing it? Because it sounds wonderful if you don't have to disrupt our.
I think that that part of the. I mean, first of all, there is technology. There's advances in terms of doing that, and I think it was it. Labor used to not be as expensive, and so people just kind of terracing. Where our house is here in just outside of DC in Maryland, is very hilly, and so I live in a house that basically could have been in Southern California, but it's built into the land and it terraces down, and but the amount of effort that first of all to build into that, and then you're having to build these incredibly uh, deep retaining walls, which themselves are extremely expensive, and then expensive to maintain. Especially you throw a swimming pool in there or something.
Right.
Yeah, so it's like easily 50% of the cost for a lot of these houses goes into just grading and retaining the land, especially if you're dealing in relatively steep terrain. So it's far cheaper. That's why these buildings were in out of LA, which kind of the kind of early uh, post-world um, World War II mid-century modern houses were all designed that way because they were cheap. It was cheaper to build them kind of hanging on the edge of the cliff. The land was cheaper to begin with, right? You
Right.
could purchase land, and then just to prop them up on kind of stilts and stuff was a lot cheaper than if you had to actually start to cut into that land and build
And
a
those
cliff.
houses are so famous. I think of the one that comes to mind, that was in, well, that I don't know if you'd call it a flying saucer house that I think is
Yeah,
in, oh, the one in LA. That's
yeah,
just,
that John Locke is the
yeah,
architect. Yeah,
yes,
the
yes.
Big Lebowski house. Is that, I think that's what it's called. Yeah,
I mean, it's been there a long time, but it's engineered. I mean, we've had plenty of earthquakes in LA,
yeah,
but it's incredible. And
yeah,
it's yes, it didn't go into the ground with huge foundations. These foundations could be so huge. Well, right now I don't. There was two houses. One is Bono's house. If you're coming up Crescent Heights, up Laurel, you can see this huge, you do know the house I'm talking about?
yeah,
Huge
sure.
dark wood foundation,
Yeah,
huge house. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, that's crazy. That's kind of hanging off with an infinity pool just into
yeah,
the
yeah,
that cost a fortune too. And there it looks, I mean, it looks like from below that it definitely has a lot of foundation that's
yeah.
going into the ground up there. So they
Right.
could have done what you suggest and it would have, not disturbed the earth as much.
Yeah,
But Yeah, we see some big foundations in LA. So let's do a little traveling. I want to go to wherever you do these eco resorts. And have you done one and built one in Australia or New Zealand?
No, I mean, actually, though, I would love to do either Australia or New Zealand. I have a lot of very good friends who are architects and designers, and actually people who are not architects and designers too, in both New Zealand and Australia. And it's an incredible place, and parts of it are very similar to
Yes.
uh, and some New Zealand is its own thing, but it has those kind of challenges, but it has an incredible design culture there. I think some of the best houses in the planet are in Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah, I watched a lot of YouTube during COVID, and I still watch YouTube now. And I just constantly looking at architecture and
Yeah,
traveling and seeing incredible places. But I mentioned I stayed at the one and only Emirates in the Wolgan Valley. Most people from Australia don't even know it exists. On 7,000 acres or some crazy amount. I got lost in the outback. It was not funny, but it is a beautiful resort. But I think it's closed now because rains or something.
well, that's about the size of most of our developments. It's a
Wow.
nine
So
seven
yeah, tell
thousand
me the ones you've
acres. Yeah, and that's mainly because these are boutique hotels. I mean, they're like 50 rooms maximum.
yeah,
Uh,
like a house. We had like a swimming pool in our, I guess you'd call it a room. It was one big room and a big living room and an indoor pool and it was like a wasn't even a small house, but it was it was pretty incredible.
that's great. No, and it's fun. When you go on places like that, what's really neat, and fortunately, like uh, my kids' generation, the Zoomers, and if they can afford, to travel that way, they travel in packs. They it's
Yeah.
very much much more of a social experience, which is it's to me one of the things that I found very optimistic about that generation is because they get a bad rap because they kind of grow up as almost latchkey kids, where it's like glued to their phone and all
Right.
this stuff. But they're very savvy socially,
Yeah.
um, and I think they know how to lean into the sort of experience economy in a way, and so that's basically our clientele.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Where are some of the tell us about some of the eco resorts you've built.
Well, we haven't built in it yet. So, but I have worked on some, and what's interesting is the idea for doing this that came about because I occasionally will get asked to consult on projects, and there was a big one in I won't say which country, but a Middle Eastern country, which was very similar to the let's say like Monument Valley in southern Utah and the northern Arizona, southern Utah. That area, they wanted to put, and there was nothing around it for miles and miles and miles. In the middle of nowhere, they wanted to put this huge hotel, a 500 room hotel resort, and they asked me if I would sort of study this and mass it out because they're going to get they were going to try to make it some kind of competition. And I did it, and I came back to them. I said, I think you may want to tone this down a little bit, because it's just
Is it high or low?
it was like towers coming out of
Oh, okay.
pristine landscape, and uh, uh, they didn't really want to hear that from me, but I did that. I thought it was a great idea, but but to do it at a much much smaller scale, so it wasn't overwhelming.
Right. Like the Wolgan Valley was
Yeah,
you would that you drop your you park your car, then they come and get you in a Land Rover, and
Yeah.
then you take you, and you don't see anything but wilderness, and then you do get to where you're going, but they're really built into the nature, and you don't really see it. It's
Yeah.
everything's there, everything's big, but
Yeah.
when the way it's hidden was just incredible. I wrote a coffee table book called Contain Beauty, Photographs, Reflections, and Swimming Pools. So and I'll send you a copy, but
Yeah.
I have some
You have to
cool,
sign it. I mean, if you do, but
yeah,
I would love that.
there were
I
two.
so that sounds like something like
Yeah, it's incredible. So there are some of the places I've been to, and then some of them were just places I wanted to go. But there are two places. You started to describe it, but then I thought when you said that they wanted to build a high rise, I don't think this one was, but there were two in the UAE and Abu Dhabi. One was in the desert and looks like it melts into the desert, and then another one was this huge structure. Um, and it's just, and these structures are incredible and so beautiful, but I love hotels and I love to travel, so this is right, and I love
me too.
architecture.
Yeah, me too. I love hotels,
So
and
what
so
was,
yeah.
name a few eco resorts that you've helped consult on, some eco resorts, is that right?
Well, I did a project early on, um, uh, and when I started my own practice, which was basically right at 9/11. I got very involved in 9/11. Uh, my We lived just a few blocks north of the towers, and so that kind of propelled me to move out of the kind of corporate world and into doing my own practice. And I did a couple in China,
Okay.
in this area called Sanya, which is sort of their Hawaii, I guess, in a way. It's an island, Hainan Island, and at the end of the on very southern tip of it, is Sanya, and we were really fortunate that they gave us this incredibly pristine piece of again terraced land, or and we did one there, and that was and it's interesting because the work that I'm doing now is a little different in that I've now and subsequently did this. I've worked on hotels in New York City. I've worked that Trump building is actually a hotel and residence next to the UN, uh, and then I just was working on a hotel and casino resort for Steve Wickoff, just by pure coincidence. And
Where's where's that located?
that was in Las Vegas,
Okay.
uh, and that was that was a huge uh, building. And but what's interesting is I know enough about hotels and how they operate that the way in which you make them work is one certainly design's important, location's important, ambiance, all that, but frankly it all comes down to service. If you have to wait too long to get your hot towel, that's a problem. So and that's the kind of thing that you can't afford not to do. So the best hotels are
Incredible.
usually ones that
It's
are
incredible how
you know
many things that, I mean, you're naming, not, you're thinking about building the building, making it safe, doing but then you're thinking about down to the towel. Like, I can't imagine all that goes through your mind when you're working on a project, especially that scale.
yeah. Yeah, so you have to be able to do this. So we're designing these things, unlike a lot of sort of eco resorts where they take like little buildings and sort of string them along, and they
Mhm.
usually have one main building where people tend to congregate. The, that's okay if you live next to that main building, but if you live at the end of that string of pearls, guess what? You're not going to get your towel when you need it, and so that's one of the problems with that. So that, and also, as I said before, I think the trends these days in luxury hospitality is I kind of actually very old fashioned idea. But you go to around the world, you stay at these great hotels, but you don't you if you want to be private, you can do that. But a lot of people go it's just to meet people from fellow travelers, from all over the walk of life. You're outgoing, I'm sure. I'm sure you're like that.
Well,
So and that's what we want to lean into that. So we're really designing these more as land yachts. This isn't glamping. This is like luxury, because a lot of times you're in the middle of nowhere. The weather might be great. It might be terrible. And if
right.
it's terrible, what do you want to do? You want to hunker down and sit by a fire. And, so
Well, it's
and
so interesting. That's exactly how they did at the Wolgan Valley. You had your beautiful place, but then, and we did have some weather elements, but
yeah,
then we went to where we ate. It was like a yacht. It was like a cruise ship. It was very small, but you
yeah,
would go to Hungernate for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and lunch was in a different place than breakfast and dinner was, and
yeah.
you all together so you can talk to the people. And the CEO came around and talk to everyone. And so it was, yeah, it was really wonderful that way. So it's so funny. I didn't, I don't think of it in that terms, but now that I'm talking to you and you're building these places where people can come together, it's very interesting. Wow. So much
Well,
to,
I promise you, when I'm ready to sort of like start to show it off, you'll be one of the first people I talk to. I would love to get your thoughts and opinions.
I would love it. I am a hotel fanatic. I would like to live. I stayed at the Wynn a couple times. I'm like, this is all I need. We stayed in the one that was like 2,000 square feet, big
Yeah,
living room. I don't need a kitchen. There was like a little banquette, huge
yeah,
master bath, a huge primary suite, and huge bathroom. And I'm like, this is all I need. Oh, and we had a massage room. I loved that.
yes.
Have big two bathrooms.
That's
It was
fantastic.
incredible. That's my dream to live in a hotel.
Yeah, that's great. Well, the winds are great. I mean, it's also one of those places where it's just the way it operates. It's so subtle. People don't realize, the difference between a great hotel and a very good one is so subtle in that. But fortunately, design is a big part of it. So
Absolutely. What I love about it, I'm not a gambler, but I used to,
yeah,
I'd be happy to go for the weekend to Las Vegas just to be there, to just to have experience the people in the restaurants. I hate cigarette smoke and I hate gambling, but the win from
yeah,
the wind, I could go right from my room down to the spa. I can enjoy the spa. I can walk through the casino without smelling any smoke or weird smell. There's another hotel there I won't name, but I can't even go through it because their
yeah.
scent that goes through is so awful. But yeah, do you know who built or designed the Wynn, and are you friends with them, or do you
Yeah,
know any?
I think I know a number of architects. There are local architects. Vegas is a very closed place. And it's just because at the time I was kind of brought in to help some friends of mine do a project. I wasn't really as involved in the design of that, but I was just kind of running it. Um, and it was great. I learned it was an incredible way to learn
Wow.
uh, about like all the things that go into that making an operation like that really work and
It's a
involve.
city. It's a small city or a big city.
Yeah, it's a very small city. It's a very close. It's tightly controlled about it, and there's a lot of the sort of secret sauce that goes into these things. And if I revealed certain things about it, I'm not sure people would ever go to the hotel.
Gosh, we will, but what we do need to know is we know how we're already at the top of the hour. We need to know how to get a hold of you. What sort of projects would you like to be hired for now? And I'm definitely going to hold you to it when you're ready to do your
Well, listen,
hotel.
yeah,
I want to.
well, listen, I mean, I I would I'd love working in my old hometown. Actually, anywhere in California. I've been fortunate that I've designed a lot and built stuff all over California. But my passion right now is anything sort of residential or hotels, multifamily. Are people who got something they really and special, right? I don't do sort of regular stuff,
Right.
but people who really, and especially if they have real interest in art. One of my favorite projects, I designed the headquarters for Sotheby's here in New York City. So I got very involved in art. Obviously, the Rodin Museum. I worked on 2 projects for the Museum of Modern Art. People have a great collection, and they want an interesting house and a very cool, landscape-driven, view-driven thing. I'd be happy to talk to them.
Wonderful. Well, I already have an amazing interior designer, decorator designer who's in all the magazines, and she lives up in the Malibu Canyon. I
Right.
just was at her house for an event, and I want to introduce you because she's at the top as you are, and does a lot. She just built another house because one of her houses burned in the fire, and it's simply stunning. So I'm definitely going to connect you and Tammy.
I love really good interior designers. I mean, I spend a lot of time just looking at other people's work that way, and I have a real admiration for very good interior design. It's almost a completely different thing, and I have a lot of respect for people who do it well.
You're probably doing your house right now, not far from her house, I bet.
Um,
We
so
will show
uh,
notes. What's your best website, or what's the best way to contact you?
the easiest way to find me is on LinkedIn,
Okay.
um, and from there, because I'm kind of all over the place. There's another great place you can get to me. It's called Intro, and that you can actually connect with me directly and get some advice on something. But LinkedIn is the easiest. You just they're not many Kevin Kennons. You can just Google my name, Kevin Kennon, and just Google
Yep.
uh, art
Kenn,
architecture.
right? Yeah. Ken.
K-E-N. On LinkedIn, I'm under my first name is Paul, and my parents call me my middle name. So just to be verified on LinkedIn, I have to put in that Paul. So you find me under Paul Kevin Kennon. But regardless, you could just type in Kevin. It'll still get to you.
You
There's-
are easy to find. Well, thank you so much. This was incredible. I just love architecture, and it's pretty incredible feat and amazing what you do. But thank you so much for joining us today.
send me your book. I mean,
I
really,
will.
really. This is really. Do you have a picture of it?
Yep, I'll show you. It's big. It's heavy.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, wow. Debbie.
It's beautiful. This
Oh,
was my empty nest when my daughter went to college. I was just so depressed, and so a
I'm blown
client.
away. That's beautiful. I can tell I want it. I would go out and run out and buy it. Maybe I'll go buy it and then I'll send it to you. You can sign it.
Exactly. Well, I'll be back to New York. My daughter lives there, and we'll definitely meet up. But we're definitely going to meet up in LA. Tell me when you're in Los Angeles next.
Okay, that's great. Well, I know a lot of great places in New York City.
I
Happy to
love
meet
it.
and have a
Awesome.
couple.
We will
All right,
do that.
great.
Thank
Okay, good.
you.
All right.
Thank
Nice to see you. Very nice. Thank you.
Tune in each week for another episode of Mastering the Art of Success with host Debbi DiMaggio. Thursdays, 2 p.m. Eastern. Real stories, real strategies, real success.